Welcome to the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm Honey. I'm a coach working primarily with women and specializing in aligned business, personal transformation, and embodiment. Each week here I'll be sharing business strategy, business advice, tips and tools for you to think more deeply, for you to get more self-aligned, and for you to start your week in the most conscious and intentional way possible. So this week we're going to be touching on a really big topic, something that I could talk about for a long time, something that I actually did a little bit of study on at university when I was doing my arts law degree that has helped me as a business coach, and something that I'm really interested in. And that is, we're getting into the territory of what you need in order to actually sell and to make sales. I'm just going to give you 3 main points today, but there are millions of things that we can talk about. The 3 that I'm bringing up, I think are pretty far up there. They're pretty important, but let's start with the recommendation. Often my recommendations, they kind of go all over the place, and this one is self-explanatory, but it's to understand what works for you. To do the research, do the experimentation, to take the time out to get to know yourself and know what really works for you. And this has come up for me and something that I wanted to recommend because recently I invested a small amount in an infrared sauna blanket, and I had been traveling to a lovely women-owned space in Kyneton called The Good Self, which has an infrared sauna. But it's a 35-minute drive each way, and it was $40. And it's a big commitment, and you can't do it that often. But when I would come out of the sauna and have a shower, it would be the only time that I felt really clear, that I didn't have brain fog. I felt like the windscreen wipers were turned on. I don't fully know why. I think there are a lot of potential reasons as to why that's so beneficial for me, but I've just accepted it, that it is the biggest game changer for me and my body at this age and at this point in time. And getting something that I can use to do the same function at home once a day or once every second day has been hugely game-changing for my feeling good, feeling radiant, feeling glowy, being able to show up, not feeling really sluggish and fatigued, being able to continue my level of focus through the afternoon, which I had been really struggling with. I just want to remind you that you know what's best for you, and you can play with different things, and whether that's in business or in personal or in health, just understand, get to know what works for you and commit to those things. All right, let's get into these 3 points, just a few of the things that you need in order to sell. And I do want to say I recently polled on my Instagram, and I had a few interesting and lengthy conversations in my DMs from that poll about how do you feel about sales as a female business owner. And the majority of people who responded said it gave them the ick and they avoided it. And so it didn't make them feel good, it made them feel uncomfortable, and so they just tried not to do it. Every single one of those women have either spoken to me on a call or spoken to me in the DMs about, for whatever reason, wanting to have a more profitable business or build a profitable business from the get-go. And it's kind of like, well, guys, if you want to make money, you need to be able to sell. And I think that there is a big part of a lot of women who have maybe been into alternative wellness, spirituality, conscious, like on that more side of things, they're unwilling to even admit that they want money. But not only do they need money, but they probably want it more than most people because they've denied themselves that integral need for so long. And I think there needs to be admitting that you need and you want money, and then admitting that, well, you have to kind of be a bit more of a professional and a bit more grown up and do these things that make you uncomfortable, because that is how you will get money and you will grow and you'll be profitable and you'll be successful. I want to make it really clear that you can make a great amount of money without being cheesy, by being in integrity, without doing anything that feels out of alignment for you. You don't need to go down that used car salesman route. You don't need to lie. You don't need to be dishonest or not transparent. I do see that a ton, especially TikTok, and also having been privy to a lot of women's businesses over the years. I firmly believe that if you're not walking the talk, at least most of the time, or if you're not walking the talk at a particular point in time, you're really aware of it and you're trying to make the changes to be more embodied in that. When you are walking the talk and you're showing up in the ways that you're asking other people to show up, it just makes you magnetic. But enough about that. Let's put all of that to the side and go into these 3 points. And look how much of a rabbit hole I can go down. Give me 10 minutes and I will give you 10 hours on selling. The first thing is clarity in your messaging and your marketing. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to use 2 real-world examples of women from my community. I haven't worked with either of them, have talked about working with them, and have kind of been privy to their social media for a little while now. Both really lovely women. Both women that I can tell aren't making very much money from their business. They've either told me that or it's really clear. The first one, every time her content pops up for me, because I follow her and I check out what she's doing, it is so not clear what she's selling. It's literally just like fluff, like random fluff. And if you didn't go and actually read her bio, and I think even if you did read her bio, I have no idea what she's selling. And, you know, she's kind of explained it to me a few times, but even in that, it's really foggy. And if you really need money and your content or your online presence isn't pointing to what you do or what you offer or who you're for or what you sell, what people can get from you, what benefit they get from paying you, it's never going to happen. Another one, really simple, like this is basic stuff. Gorgeous lady offers in-person classes and I think in-person sessions. Nowhere on her social media, her bio, or her link in bio or her booking page does it say the suburb or the state that she is doing those classes in. So we have a huge amount of assumption that the people that come across us have got to know us deeply enough to understand actually where we're located before they will book in. So you are making a huge barrier between someone signing up and myself. I was like, oh, if it's in Melbourne, maybe I'll go to one and support her and enjoy that. I have no idea where these are. And I don't want to go into her DMs and tell her that. Probably if she's listening to this podcast, she's probably going to go and check it now and she's going to fix that. We need to have clarity in our marketing, in our messaging, in saying, this is what I sell. This is what you get. This is what you'll get from it. These are the benefits. This is why you might need it and why I might be good for you to do that with. Really, really basic stuff. But a lot of the people that I come across have not got to the point that they have committed to doing a particular thing. They kind of want to be an everyone's man and they kind of want to be a jack of all trades and they offer a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I'm going to chuck that in there because I'm worried that if I don't have that, my other offerings are too expensive, so no one will work with me. Yeah, you hear me. Often I will have conversations in my DMs where people will tell me that they're really struggling to make money and they'll often blame external things like the economy. And I want to make it really clear that I have witnessed people make more money than they ever imagined in their entire lifetime in the last 6 months. Many women with online businesses. Maybe if you're a builder and the economy has so hugely affected building material costs and times, yes. But if you're an online person offering like health services or anything to do with looking after yourself or growth or growing your business, that's not an excuse. And when I talk to them about, well, you really need a sales and marketing strategy, they come back to me and they say, well, I'm going to create these new offerings. And I said, that's not a sales and marketing strategy. Especially creative people, I've noticed, and myself, I used to do this a lot. I would just create offers rather than doing the strategic stuff. And then I would create the offer and maybe it would go well, maybe it wouldn't. And then if it didn't go well, I would blame it on the offer or the idea of the offer. No, it's because you haven't actually marketed it. We're going down a tangent here. Let's get back on track. One thing that this concept of needing to be super clear in who you're for, what you do, why, what the outcome is that if you're unclear, no one will trust you. If you're wishy-washy, flopping about, you don't really know for sure, you've not really committed to trying to be for everyone, it's so obvious in your language and the way that you hold yourself and the way that you show up online, and it makes you look untrustworthy. It makes you look disorganized, and it makes you look like someone that I wouldn't put my trust into if I was asking them to help me with something. When you do know exactly those things and you can actually speak to it really clearly, a lot of my clients who are a little bit less confident, I suggest that they memorize a few lines that we create through marketing practices. And so that when people ask them, what do you do? They've actually got it memorized. And when they can respond in that super, super clear and obvious way, it has in the past built a lot of excitement and a lot of confidence. Because if you kind of go, oh, I do this and that, it's not really a conversation starter. And it would probably, for most people, make you pull back and go, okay, let's not talk about this. Whereas if you go, I work with women who value integrity, who are creative, who need to build a business that is sustainable and impactful and going to bring them financial abundance. People can go, oh, wow, business coach for women. That's so interesting. Wow, you must deal with really interesting things. How long have you been doing that for? And that's an exact conversation that happens to me on a weekly basis. Whereas if I said, oh, I do some stuff online with marketing, there's a big difference. And if I can say clearly, I work with creative women who value integrity, that's a really specific group of people that reflects my own values as well, which people can then talk about. But apart from why I'm saying that, the conversations that come around that is the more that you have conversations that are open and interested and excited about your work and allow you to speak clearly about your work, the more confident you will become. Trust me. There is huge power in the sound and in spoken word. But let's move into the next point, which has come from the first one. And that is, if you're wishy-washy, flopping about, not clear, foggy, muddy, people can't trust you. And trust is the second thing on my list. I've actually written here trust and or connection. And why I say that is trust is really important for the majority of my clients. Now, the majority of my clients this year have been some form of mental health worker. So I've got a lot of counselors, a lot of psychologists, a lot of therapists, hypnotherapists, and coaches who work with the mental behaviors and mental patterns. I've also got a lot of alternative wellness practitioners, health coaches, things like that. But then I do also have website designers and graphic designers and people who are working with other businesses to build their businesses. In all of those cases, mental health, physical health, and business, you need to trust the person because it is so important. You're not going to put your mental health, your physical well-being, or your financial well-being in someone's hands who are coming across as lacking confidence and lacking clarity, because you need to be sure that they're not going to screw everything up. Okay. So trust is super, super important for the majority of my clients. I think connection is important for everyone because There's a million psychologists that you could work with, but you need to gel with a psychologist for it to work, I personally believe. And if your acupuncturist really gets you and you can really connect, then you're probably going to feel more success from that treatment. If you have a similar language or similar way of seeing the world, it's going to be easier to work with a designer who's going to get what you're saying more quickly, and there's going to be less screwing around because you haven't understood one another. But connection, I'm sure you have bought something on a vibe. I have. I do it all the time. I do it more than I should, significantly more than I should. But sometimes you just vibe with a brand, you just vibe with a person, and you want to be in on it. So that's why this point is trust and or connection, because maybe you create candles, and while there needs to be an element of trust there that it's not going to blow up like, the Goop candle blew up a few years ago and there was a $1 million lawsuit around it. But generally, you just want to vibe with that brand. You want to know that it's going to have a good smell and you like the way it looks and it's going to suit your decor. So we do make purchases and we can create sales simply through connection and vibes. But if you have any form of business where there needs to be a level of trust, I mean, this even includes food and beverage, there needs to be trust. Supplements, there needs to be trust. Beauty products, there needs to be trust. I need to know that I'm going to put that on my body. I'm not going to get a rash. So trust is pretty massive, actually. But let's keep it open. Let's talk about connection vibe as well. The third one is part of connection and it's part of vibe. And it's something that the majority of people I work with have never thought about, but it is a huge component of marketing and sales, and that is narrative alignment. You could call that personal narrative, cultural narrative, social narrative, whatever it is. But what I mean when I say this is that you have to have a relatively aligned belief system. All right. And I'm going to use a personal example from my own business. I know that there are a lot of women that I have worked with in the past who are in my community who have this false sense of self-confidence that has come from woo-woo spiritual stuff, but the way that they behave in their life is not indicating someone who is confident or has high self-esteem. But they don't know that. They're in this period of, I'm great, I love myself, even though this daily self-sabotage is saying maybe you don't. But if I was to say to them, your problem is low self-esteem and you need this course or this session for us to fix your low self-esteem, they will go, no, that's not for me. No. They would never buy that because it's not what they believe about themselves in the world. I feel like the narrative alignment could, like for me, is also visual alignment. There can be cultural and social narratives as well, but they're a bit too big to get into. So I would love for you today to spend some time this week asking yourself how clear it is in your language and what you put out into the world, what you actually do and who you're for, and have you made that obvious? And I really want you to get solid on, if someone asks you, what do you do for work, that you can spin a really great, solid sentence that is very, very clear and not at all waffly. Because most of my clients, when we first do this, they waffle on so hard that both of us go, oh, that made no sense. And we kind of have a laugh and then we break it down together. Secondly, I want you to ask yourself, are you building trust? Do you need trust for what you sell, or do you need connection and vibes? And are you building whatever you've decided you need? And a huge one with trust that has come up for my clients this year is, for instance, being perceived as professional. If you're in a professional service, like something like a psychologist or a mental health worker or a graphic designer, etc., you need to be looking relatively professional online and not have anything that is inappropriate. Okay. And I know that's not really sexy, but that is going to be part of building trust. You need to look professional, you need to sound professional, and you need to show up that way if you're selling something that is a professional service. And lastly, I want you to look at the narratives of maybe the people that you currently work with and also your ideal clientele, and ask yourself, are you connecting to those narratives? Maybe is what you're selling actually drawing on those narratives, or have you never considered that? If all of this was really eye-opening to you or interesting, or it's you're writing heaps of notes, or it's making you think, oh, wow, I really need to look at this because I do want to make money. I've finally admitted to myself that I want to make money. I want to have a supportive, abundant financial lifestyle, and I need to start thinking about selling. I have a 1-month group coaching container, which is all around marketing, messaging, and sales. What you offer is so purified, for lack of a better word, and you're actually showing up to sell it. That is the very last time that I will be offering a month-long group coaching container at that price point. It's a very low price point. It's 444 Australian dollars. I wanted to keep something that people could join in on if they weren't ready for coaching. But I do also need to honor my expertise. And that means from here on out, the masterminds are going to be much more expensive. So if you want to get in on the ground, I would strongly suggest that you sign up for September. This is going to give you so much to do and so much to work on, and it could potentially fully transform your business. There is an option for payment plans, and there is also an option to add on a 1-hour one-to-one coaching call with me. And you cannot access me one-to-one unless you're in an intensive. So that is a pretty juicy and discounted deal. If you have any questions about that or what we talked about in today's episode, please feel free to send me a DM. If you are like, I'm not sure if the mastermind's for me, or you're like, okay, I need one-to-one coaching, I do only have 3 spaces left for September, and you can book a free 15-minute call with me at any point in time. The link is in the show notes, and if you go on that and there isn't a spot in your time zone, feel free to DM me and we'll work it out. And then no strings attached calls. If you want to stay connected, please follow me on Instagram at honeybashan coaching and follow me on TikTok at honeybashan.com. We will be in your ears next week. Hope that you got something or a lot from this episode today. If you would like to connect with Nicole, follow her on TikTok. You can search with no spaces Expressive Freedom Therapy, or you could also check out her website, expressivefreedom.net. And I will have all of the links to her website and her social media in the show notes, and you can jump on and explore all of her free offerings and maybe jump on the waitlist for her counseling.